Hey, this is Duffy Jones from DVM Success, and today I'm going to walk you through how to log on and then use the Vettelligence products. So if you want to go to Vettelligence right here, it'll bring you to a logon page. You'll go ahead and log in with your registered email, either your Google or your Microsoft email, and we'll go ahead and log on right now, and it brings you into this Manage Hospital page. We're going to start in the financial data page. So the financial data section is everything that comes from QuickBooks Online. When you come in here, you're going to see this screen. You'll see your hospital. If you have multiple hospitals, you'll be able to select which hospital you want to look at, or you can look at them all combined. And then you can go into view the practice evaluation. What that's going to do is that's going to bring up this opening page that just gives you a lot of detailed information about your practice. We're really trying to get to EBITDA as what we're really driving for, because again, EBITDA or profit really determines the overall value of your hospital. And when you have a very high EBITDA, your practice is very stable. You can afford things that happen, like a new roof, if that should happen, or giving raises or buying new equipment. So the higher the EBITDA, the better. And we're really trying to get to have really strong hospitals. 30 would be ideal, but a lot of times we're looking at hospitals to be over 23% EBITDA, and that's 23% of their revenue is their profit. So when we look at revenue at this hospital, the hospital is always going to be in the blue line here. So we're going to see a nice upward trend of this hospital over time, doing really well. Had some fall off though here lately, so we want to figure out what happened. We're looking in the trailing 12 months, so each one of these dots represents the trailing 12-month revenue. And if you hover over that dot, it'll actually give you the dollar figure as well too. The goal line is where we think they ought to be based on size, number of doctors, and other factors. So you can see that this hospital is outperformed on a revenue standpoint for most of the year. Another big driver of EBITDA besides revenue is cost of goods sold. So when we click over to that, we can see right away that this hospital has been running over. So the blue line is what they're paying in cost of goods sold compared to where we want to see them. And these are percentages of revenue. So again, we really want to see your COGS at a 20% average here of your revenue, and they're running above that. And again, if you hover over any of those, you can see. You can also switch between trailing 12-month and a monthly view. The hard part is there's a lot of variability in the monthly view, so a lot of times when we're looking for trends, we're looking in that trailing 12-month view. We can do the same thing with labor, and this hospital is great, done a great job of controlling their labor. Their labor line, or what they're paying, is way underneath where they should be paying based on their revenue, so they've done a great job of controlling their labor, so very happy about that. And then when we look at their EBITDA, we can see that for a large part of the, for many months, they've been over this 23% EBITDA line here, which is represented by the goal line. They've kind of gone under it sometimes and then gone over it as well. Up here, you get 3-year averages of what's going on in your hospital. So you get over, this hospital is doing 26% EBITDA, which is fantastic. So it's over the 23 mark, so they get a green box. Anytime you hover over one of these dots, it'll actually give you your actual. So in 2021, they were closer to 29% EBITDA, which is fantastic. Labor, they're doing a really good job at controlling their labor as well too. So the 3-year average is about 32.9, which is about 2 points under where we want to see it. You can actually see what the target is and what they were by year. COGS, they're doing a better job of controlling their COGS than they did before. They're at 14 in 24, where before in 23 they were at 25. So they made a good amount of progress here, but because they're still running above average, it turns yellow. They turn red if it gets really bad. And same thing with revenue. They've fallen off a little bit here in revenue, and that's probably the only reason that box has turned yellow. On this side of the page, what we're looking at is the current EBITDA is about $400,000, which gives you a valuation of your hospital, or how much your hospital is worth, at about $2.5 million at a 6 multiple. You can switch the multiple down here, and you can see what it does to your valuation. But really, the biggest change that you can make in your valuation is getting your EBITDA up. And so the more you can do that by controlling your COGS or your labor, it's really going to add a lot of value to your hospital. Optimized value here is if you were under 23% EBITDA, this would tell you what the 23% EBITDA would look like and how much more you could grow. So this is kind of aspirational. This hospital is already kind of over optimized because they're over that 23% EBITDA on a 3-year average. So from here, you can dig a little bit deeper to really see what's going on in your hospital and really look at these categories here. So now we're looking at the current year. So we're looking at the cost of goods sold. Their P&L amount is 14%. Their optimized amount would be about 18. So they're doing great this year of controlling their cost of goods sold. DVM comp this year, they're about 16%, where optimized will be 20. So they're doing great here. Support staff, they're at 20%. We want to see them about 18. So that means we've got to reduce by about $28,000 here. So that could be looking at overtime, looking at different ways, deciding, hey, do we want to hold off on hiring that person right now until we get our labor under control? Or this just may be the way your hospital operates. Sometimes they operate a little bit higher, and they're able to make that up in other places through efficiency and through COGS. Operating expenses are running about 19%, where we want to see them at about 15%. Down here, these labor budgets, if you download weekly into QuickBooks, your revenue, you'll be able to get a budget for the next week based on the revenue that you downloaded the week before. So these will give you rough numbers, rough targets to kind of start to control your COGS and start to control your labor a little bit. Another way to kind of look at your hospital right here, you can see basically here's where they are, here's where we want to be, and here's where they are. So this hospital is a little bit over optimized that way. This graph right here, we definitely have a lot of people who love or hate this. You're able to look at any time period over the previous year that you want to look at, and you're able to look at in any of these categories. All these categories are expandable. So when you open them up, they fall into the VMG AHA chart of accounts. So if you're not on the VMG AHA chart accounts in your QuickBooks, not a problem. We can back-end map it into these categories, but I would suggest that if you are going to really work and focus on your hospital, getting to the VMG chart of accounts is really important because that is kind of the standard and that's what everybody uses. So if we look at this right here, we can say, okay, our income in professional services. This year we were about $840,000. The year before we were at 1.19. So what happened? So it went down. So that's the questions I would start asking. Do we not seeing as many exams? Are we not charging for them? What's going on? So I could look by category and really see which ones are really kind of dragging me down as opposed to the ones that we're doing really well in over time. So gives you really good detailed information here. You can look at expenses. You can look at it by quarter. You can look at it by year. You can look at it by month. You can look at however you want to look at it. And we'll always compare to the previous year's period of that period. For those who don't like the P&L graph very much, we've made this summary graph here. So this just gives you high-level information about income over previous year. And again, you pick your date ranges, and then it'll compare it over that same period. It looks at your growth rate, looks at your COGS over that previous year, looks at your labor, and looks at your EBITDA. So again, just more of a summary, a little bit higher level than the graph before. So that is all the stuff that we see with the QuickBooks data, and now we're going to kind of move on to the hospital metrics. So all of this runs from an Ally DVM connection. The Ally DVM connection to you is free. They just hook up and just pass the data to us. They charge us, not you. You don't have to use any of their other products as well, but it's a way for us to kind of get the data here. So now we're looking at any of these categories however we want to look at it over time. So right now we're looking at PIMS revenue monthly. Looking at the dark blue is 24, light blue is 23. So we can see, okay, PIMS revenue for this practice in 24 was mostly over the 23 revenue, which is good, except for here in October and November it started to fall. We could also look at active patients, and we could say, okay, this is a little bit more problematic. In 23, we had this many active patients. 24, we fell, and in 25, we fell again. So that would cause me to ask, okay, what's going on? Why are we losing active patients? Do we have something going on with our front desk? Do we have a doctor somebody doesn't like? Did we turn off our reminders? Like, what happened? It would have me really digging into there. You can look at new clients as well, too, and say, okay, are we getting new clients through the door so that they can help to bolster our client numbers? And you can say, well, we didn't do a great job in 24 of that. It did correct here in October. So what did we do in October where we got 96 new clients versus April where we got 16? So those are the kinds of things that you can see in these graphs of what's really working and what's not working. So again, you can look at any of these parameters however you want to look at it. You can also bring that down to the provider view. So you can actually do that by provider. You can do it by doctor in your hospital. It'll look at, now looking at revenue monthly, and we're looking at 24 over 23. So you can see how they're doing and are they doing better. We can look at their active patients and active clients, same thing that we're seeing. We can look at their average revenue per client and say, okay, did that really bump up? So you're able to look at all of these things that we were looking at the hospital. We are able to look at it at the provider level as well. The next thing that we developed was a pricing tool called Profit Defender. So this is what it's going to do is really help you organize your pricing strategy. So many of us, when we do pricing in our hospital, we really have no idea what we're doing and kind of what we're raising. So the idea is that we want to make small changes in price of things we do a lot of. Therefore, the client won't notice, and also those will flow right to our bottom line. So what you're looking at is it brings in your products and services and their current price. And it lists them in order of how many you do. So for this hospital, the exam physical is the thing that they do the most of. We've got a target EBITDA increase here of 20%. So we really want to get a 20% bump in that EBITDA. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our price and say, okay, my price currently is $59.60. I think my market could handle us going to $63.77. So that dropped about $5,200 to my bottom line, and that gets me on my way to that target. So what I would do is then continue to move my prices down, hoping to raise only about 20 to 30 prices to get to that target EBITDA increase here. Once you're happy with your prices and everything looks good, what you would do is just close the campaign. What that does is that locks everything. You're able to print the sheet, go ahead and update it in your PIMS system. Right now, we don't write back to your PIMS only because every PIMS does dispensing fees, bundles a little bit different, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't accidentally increase anything too much. So again, if you're only raising 20 to 30 prices, it shouldn't take you that long to be able to update it in your PIMS, and that way we can just ensure accuracy there. So once you're done, go ahead and close it, and then what you can do is this validator button will pop up. That lets you look at your price increases 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months after you do them, and you can see how much the quantity changed of the thing that you increased. So if we look at this right here, we see this annual physical. We went up 7%. We're looking 3 months after we raised that price as compared to 3 months before we raised the price. And we see the volume of that SKU went up 16%. So that tells me pretty good. Price went up, nobody cared. We actually did more of that SKU. So that's really good. That would probably tell me feel comfortable about that price and could almost probably raise that price again. The ones that make me more nervous are this exam illness went up 2%, but it went down 10% in quantity. So what that tells me is, okay, was that finally that 2%, finally the amount of price that just drove our clients not to do it? Or did our staff in the hospital decide it was too expensive and they started charging a different SKU? So it'll give you an idea of kind of where to look to see exactly what happened with that. And then the last thing that we developed was kind of an AI tool. We have a whole another AI side of our business called iLavet, which is a medical records dictation system. And then what it'll do is the AI will start to interact over here in the dashboards. Right now it's a bit of manual entry, but you can get all this information from your dashboard. So what you would do is you would put in your yearly revenue, you would put in your COGS percentage, you would put in your labor expense, you would put in your doctor costs, and then your EBITDA. And again, all that can be found in the dashboards. Hit the button here, and then basically what it'll do is it'll tell you what those numbers should be. So it tells you what, based on your revenue, what those numbers should be and kind of where you're trending. And then it gives you a lot of suggestions by any of these buttons that you push up here. Will give you a lot of suggestions of how to improve your COGS, your staff costs, your DVM costs, and your EBITDA. So just a quick kind of tool that now that you understand kind of what's going on in your hospital, you're able to really start to get some ideas on how to fix it. The last part of this program is the managed hospital, and this is where kind of the administrative part of the hospital comes. Right here is where we map your chart of accounts. So if you're not on the VMG chart of accounts, you can open this up, and what you're going to see once this loads is you're going to see that this whole side of the screen is going to be what's being pulled from QuickBooks. So it's just the name, the classification, and the type. And then what we do is we map it back to the VMG AHA chart of accounts. So what that allows you to do, that allows you then to look at these categories and say, okay, other expenses, I'm going to go ahead and label that Ask My Accountant, which kind of pulls it out of my graph that way. But I could also label it miscellaneous expense if I wanted to put it there. So you can move around all of these categories here. The nice thing is if you do use the VMG AHA chart of accounts, all the numbers will start to show up here and we can match them off really easily. So, but if not, it's not a big deal to map, and you can change your mapping at any point. The other thing you can do is you can invite people to your dashboard. So if you copy that link and email it to somebody, that will let them link their email to your dashboard so that you will be able to see. Again, it has to be a Microsoft or a Google email just for security reasons, but it'll let you see it. You can always see who's registered to your dashboards by looking here. So you'll be able to see who's registered for this particular dashboard, and you'll be able to remove them at any point as well. And then this last one is if when you're linking up your hospital for the first time with LIDVM, then you would use these links here. But you got total control of your hospital. You can kick people out anytime you want to get them out of your dashboards. You can invite people, and you can really map your own chart of accounts. So I hope this helps. We want to make this tool really simple, so that it's easy to really see very quickly what's going on in your hospital. We wanted to make it super affordable, so it's only $50 a month. No contracts. You can sign up anytime. You can cancel anytime. And very easy to get started. So I hope this helps, and I hope this lets you know a little bit more about our product. Thanks so much.